All right. Let's see. Where is...
My side, it says live on YouTube.
Yeah, so this is what I need to happen. I need to see where I'm at. All right, so let me mute this down. Okay. Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Sandy. I have Mark on the line, and let's see if I can get this thing rocking over here. Hey, Mark, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. So we were chatting briefly. We met through a friend, actually one of our administrators named Christy. And ironically, you know somebody that was on my friends list that I'm actually in class with, which I thought that was really such a small world. So welcome to Nurses Against Violence Unite. And Christy was telling me that you had an amazing story. And I want to thank you for having the courage to be able to come on and to have this discussion with me. So what happened? Like, if you don't mind me asking, what happened in your scenario? What happened like at work? It sounded like it was something pretty extreme.
So kind of going back, this was last spring, I believe beginning of May or so. I was at the time, and just kind of clarify, I never have been a nurse. I did a year of nursing school and decided quickly it wasn't for me. I'm a respiratory therapist.
Okay.
At the time, I was still working in the emergency department as an ER tech. I've worked in emergency department for 8 years probably as an ER tech. A couple different hospitals in St. Louis that are very busy. The one that this happened with, and then another one downtown that gets a lot of level 1 traumas and everything. Been around a lot of situations where there's been a lot of scuffles in the ER, security called, been hit, kicked, punched, bit, everything you can think of that every nurse has or every tech has, or, anybody that works in a hospital. Well, this day we were very overstaffed. The charge nurse in the ER that day decided to give me kind of the easy cake job. I was the discharge tech. Basically, I didn't do too much that day. I'd walk around, pull IVs, go over discharge paperwork, send them out, take them to a wheelchair to the car. Kind of an easy day for me. Just happened to roll over to a section of the yard, kind of see what's going on, because wasn't a whole bunch going on that day. Then one of the nurses says, "Hey, got a guy in here, shoulder pain, but he's kind of acting weird." In our hospital, when we decide they're going to be a psych patient, we put them into green scrubs. We change them out completely, take all their belongings. And it's kind of backwards, because after we go through taking everything away, then we have security come in and wand them for any metal, which is kind of a little backwards situation. On this day, this could have backfired. If he would have had a knife or something in his pocket, I might not be doing this interview right now. So a little scary on that front. So I say, yeah, what's going on? She's like, well, I'm talking to him. And then I left the room. I come back in, and he's on the floor doing push-ups. And then he's like looking under the bed, talking to something. He's just freaking me out. So can you just come in? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, no problem. So I go in, and here's this guy, I don't know, maybe late 20s or so. And, he's not a big guy, 5'6", 5'7" tops, maybe 150 pounds. Now I'm 6'3", pushing 230, pretty decent shape. So I'm just like, that's fine. I've had my scuffles. I got a little bit of a, self-defense background. I do have a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo. I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood to where, there was a lot of fighting going on in the neighborhood. Also had 6 brothers that are a lot bigger than me. So not that it's about who's tough or anything, but, I can handle my own. So, I'm seeing this guy, I'm like, no big deal. I stand back, let her do her thing and talk. She, gets us, changed out to just the green top, scrub top. And he's just kind of like talking to the wall, asking the wall, what do I do? Tell me, what do I do? Just tell me and I'll do it. Little freaky. He would kind of move towards her, so I would move towards her as he did, hoping that if he's going to do something, I'm going to be able to stop him from hitting her or attacking her or whatever it may be. So he just kind of kept on. Twice he went to leave. Now we're in a trauma room, so it kind of had the sliding doors with the curtains. He went to leave a couple times. I just put my arm up. He nonchalantly kind of just like brushed off my arm, turned around, went back. Didn't try to like aggressively push past me or anything like that. no big deal. He would go back, start talking to the wall, asking for advice. So I'm kind of like, okay, this enough's enough. I called security, which isn't maybe more than 100 feet away from where we were. I was like, I got this guy over here. We're trying to change him out. He's being a little strange, talking to the wall. Won't you guys just go ahead and head over here? So hang up the phone, just standing there. He's doing the same thing. And then the curtain was pulled closed. I thought I heard the curtain. So I turned to see if it was security coming through. And then as I was turned around, I heard the nurse say, no, don't do that. But when I heard him turn back, his fist was about 3 inches from my face. And he hit me and knocked me down one punch, just bam. This little guy, half my size. So then he's kind of standing over me and just welling on me while I'm on the ground. I'm trying to figure out at that point, what is going on? He totally caught me off guard. Had no clue. He rocked my world pretty good. It was a good punch. He hit me right below my left eye, and he's, probably got 3 or 4 punches in before I realized time to react. So I just started swinging back. We're exchanging punches. And I was hitting him pretty good. My hand for about 5 or 6 days was so swollen I could not fully make a fist with it because it was swollen from hitting him in the face, and this was doing nothing to this little guy. At that point, I'm trying to think, what can I do? I have to get this guy off me. So I reach up, grab him in a headlock, try to flip him over. And his body slapped on the ground like he was dropping a case of copier paper. He slammed so hard. I'm thinking if I can get my weight on top of him, I'm double his size, I can hold him down. Before I could even move, he jumped back up. So I'm trying to get up off my back, but again, I'm 6'3", 230. I'm in shape, but it takes me a little bit longer to get up. The nurse grabbed his waist just enough before he came back to start attacking me again, to where I was able to kick him apart. Probably should have put him on his knees. It had zero effect. So at that point, we did have a local St. Louis County cop that was in the department, heard all the screaming and all the commotion, and he came in. Kind of, things got to where I was able to get up off my feet, which at that point I was thankful because, it's kind of starting to get kind of scary and kind of fear for my life. It's like, do I need to get up, try to get up, rip the computer screen off the wall, hit him with? I don't know at this point. The cop came in, he started coming towards the police officer. The officer tased him, and the guy literally did not miss a beat, kept coming towards the cop.
Wow.
So, it was a little freaky. So the officer pulled his mace out, maced him. He had his little shoulder, heard officer distress call, St. Anthony's ER, and just went back. He got his baton out and kind of started hitting him in the knees and anything he could. At that point, more people was coming in. Security finally showed up. One of the ER techs.
How long did it take for security to show up?
To me, it seemed like about 5 minutes,
right.
But in reality, it was probably about 60 to 45 seconds that all this happened in. But obviously, to me, it was a lifetime. It was
right.
Like, what am I going to do here? I went from self-defense to I'm going to have to literally hurt this guy if I'm even able to,
right.
if I can get up off my back.
Right.
So, they came in, after one of the techs, who was a 2-time state wrestling champion, tackled him low. 2 security guys got on him, and then they was holding him down, and he was still coming off of those 3 guys off the ground from just being flat on his back and strong enough to come away from them. So the officer maced him again, but in the process of doing that, he maced both security guards and the tech that had him on the ground. Kind of at that point, I was kind of pushed out of the room, away from everything, seeing if I'm okay, this and that. Obviously, officer distress at an ER brings many police officers. Probably a good 12 to 15 showed up, and we were in a room right outside the ambulance bay entrance. So the whole ambulance bay was filled. They all came in. Now, this little guy, 5'6", 5'7", 140, 150, it took 8 cops to handcuff him. So in the end, we're trying to figure out what's going on. Come to find out, the guy was on meth. He was higher than a kite. He was just total tripping, whatever we want to call it. That's what I tell people now. It's like, you don't truly know drug strength. It's the stuff you see on TV to where they're getting tased and
mm-hmm.
hitting the knee with a baton and they keep walking.
Mm-hmm.
This 150-pound guy, it took 8 police officers to get him handcuffed. And, I had a big old bruise under my, like on my cheekbone, a huge bump on top of my head. Like I said, my hand was swollen for almost a week. I had a big cut on my ankle. At that point, I said, enough's enough. I've been hit, pushed, bit, everything so many times throughout all my years in the ER. This, we have the officer there. This is the perfect timing to set an example. Administration cannot step in. We have the officer as a witness.
Mm-hmm.
We need to stop this. It's not fair. It doesn't matter how big we are versus how small they are, man versus woman, old person. I know we get into sundowners or we get into Alzheimer's. Understandable. This was a different situation.
Oh, yeah.
Because you chose to do meth, you do not get a free pass. If I drink a 12-pack of beer and go hit somebody in my car, I don't get a free pass. It's the same situation.
Right.
And I've had a lot of comments. I had over 4,000 comments when I posted it to the Show Me Your Stethoscope, website. And some of them were, hey, he was altered, this and that. No, it was a decision he made. He didn't come to the hospital for overdose or for drug problems. He came for shoulder pain and then decided to assault.
Push-ups.
Yeah.
Push-ups.
I mean, a lot of people, sorry this happened to you. I'm not sorry. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad I was in there because the nurse is a really good friend of mine. And I'm glad he hit me instead of her. He would have broke bones in her face, I'm sure. And, he would have probably put her in the ICU. I mean, at least I was able to somewhat defend myself. So wonderful. St. Louis County police officers were great. They came up there 3 to 4 days within that next week to check on me. We're in a hospital to where they're there quite a bit throughout every single day. We have a rehab center. Well, it's a behavioral health center, but everybody thinks it's a rehab center. So we get a lot of overdoses that come in and a lot of psych patients. So our officers are there pretty much at all times. And they were wonderful. I can't even speak enough about all of them. They are like our brothers and sisters. So it was great. And then we get into I'm sorry.
I had a few questions.
Yeah.
So again, I want to reiterate, you are a respiratory therapist.
Yes.
And you are a big guy, as you were saying, 230 pounds and what was 6 foot?
6'3".
Tall, very tall. So, and then, so you're a respiratory therapist, you work in the ER, and this gentleman came in and you're trying to help him out, but yet he's becoming more and more violent. Now, did you have a lot of these hospitals, they have for the ER people, especially, they have like these programs. I'm not going to mention any names because some of these programs don't deserve fame. But they tell you that, a block, and if you
side hug holder bars.
Right, but so you got the security that it takes forever to show up, which I'm sure they're busy. It's a big hospital. You can, if even two.
Our security is stationed in the ER. Their main headquarters is.
And terrifying.
I won't. I mean, we have some good security guards. I won't go there and trash them.
Right.
For the most part, when people say call security, everybody's first thought is why. A white button up doesn't make you stop doing something.
Right.
Our security definitely needs to be upgraded. Our process needs to be upgraded. They need to warn people before we change their clothes and take their stuff away. That's the most disgraceful thing we can do to them at that point. If that guy would have had a knife in his pocket, as quick and just wiry as he was, he would have killed me. He would have stabbed me 50 times easily by the time somebody got in there.
One thing that I recently discovered, that most homeless people on the street, which I know I should probably know this stuff, but most homeless people carry kitchen knives with them. Yeah. And even then, wonder if he had something that was plastic and that was sharp, right? Yeah. A wand would have never have picked up on that. Like the old fashioned shanks, right? He might have been in prison at one time and knows how to make these things. Yeah. So, there's just so many things that can go past the wand on top of that.
Well, and from this day forward, I would refuse to change anybody out or anything until security was there. They might not be too much of a force, but 2 men in a room versus 1 man or whatever it may be. At least I have somebody else in there that is going to be able to help me. And I kind of reiterated because like there was many days that another tech would come and get me and say, Charge wants me to relieve you. You go to my assigned area and help security out. Or before we even came out of huddle and went to our assignment, they'd be like, you need to go help security. So they were kind of using me because of my size. And I guess I have an intimidating factor with my size. And then I have a lot of tattoos. I have, both arms done. And, so I guess they were using me for that. And I'm like, no, no more. I'm not doing this. If you need help with security, call more security.
Right.
If
exactly.
you can't do it, call the police.
Mm-hmm.
I am no longer going to be a punching bag for the little bit of money you're paying me each hour. Because remember, I'm an ER tech at that point. I'm not making much. I was in school trying to better me and my family. And then, went from this. And then the part that really irritated me was the administration aspect. Usually they try to push it under the, rug. They don't want the attention. And there was nothing on the news, nothing like that. It was quiet. Nobody knew about it. Most of the people in the hospital didn't even know about it. The fact that, the county police had come up 3-4 times that week to check on me, just that was their reason for coming there. So that happened on a Saturday. I called out Sunday and I called out Wednesday. Those were my next 2 scheduled shifts. Not once did I get a call from anybody in my department, bosses, administration. I did get a call from work comp because obviously I had to check in as a patient for the whole filing charges process. But, my supervisors didn't even call, check on me to see how I'm doing, see if I'm okay, if I needed anything. I mean, that there kind of told me that they're not happy with the decision I made, but I really don't care. I mean, enough's enough.
Not them. You have to live with the injury. You have to live with this, what happened to you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I'm a very on guard person. My family knows, like we were talking before, I had 5 children, 11 to 3 months old. 4 of them are girls. I'm 6'3", 230. My wife, not much to her, but she's 6 foot tall.
Oh, wow.
I tell her it doesn't matter about our size. When we're out, we're a target. Because we have 5 kids we have to keep an eye on. We're not paying attention. And people need to realize that. When you have your kids running around in a parking lot or in a store, you have that person in the corner eyeballing you, looking at your actions, looking at how much you're not paying attention to your purse in the cart. I won't get into the politics on this and that. We're a very pro-gun family and stuff. And, protecting your family is number one. And that goes at work also. And if we have to set the examples now by, hospital administration, you can say what you want, but I'm going to press charges. If you want to fire me over that, then we can start a secondary legal process.
So
you wrongfully firing me.
Did you have that training though? That whatever that self-defense training?
Yeah, we had a training, and I won't name the actual training. And I've told them from day one after I had the training, this is going to do nothing but get somebody hurt. It's kind of a, grab them from the side, one person on each side, and kind of hug them and hold their arms down while you're hugging them, and put your head into their back so they can't headbutt you. It's a joke. Part of my touch is not going to work on a psych patient or somebody that's very mad or high. It's going to get somebody hurt. But it does state, because as I've told the story, most people say, well, what do you do? Because you can't touch the patient. I absolutely can. He hit me and knocked me to the ground. I have every right at that point to protect myself. And even the training I said says, once you're on the ground, all rules are out the window. It's full blown. You do what you have to do because the patient has you to the floor. And, I did what I had to do, and I would do the same thing today. So
we'll have to discuss offline, because I'm curious to find out who this company is, because usually these corporations, because I've worked at several different hospitals, that if you don't do their move and they catch you on camera, you're gone. And then they will also have that right to ding your licensure for abusing a patient. So
now, we had one, and I will say, because our hospital's been taken over by another hospital. So, I'll name that one because we no longer use it, if that's okay.
It's up to you.
Under the prior hospital and everything before we got bought out, we used STAR training. Now I'm going back several years. I don't know if you've heard of STAR. STAR was kind of like a holds, and not quite like an arm bar, nothing like that. But STAR did state at the end that if you needed to take the patient to the ground and hold them, you had every right to aggressively take them to the ground and hold them without hurting them, obviously.
Right.
Don't sit there if you have them face down and put all your weight on their back or this and that. but you have the right to hold them until help arrives, keep everybody safe. So the new one's not quite like that.
Yeah, they're very much hands off.
Yeah, very much so. And all it's going to do is it's taken away from our defense upon ourselves.
Yep, I've had people pull up trash cans trying to protect themselves, and when we were told at the last place that I was at that if you do this on one of the moves and somebody is an MMA fighter, because we more than likely have them, that this would protect us doing the high block.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, it would not. And you cannot come back at the patient, because if you come back at the patient, I'm in Florida, and basically our rights, we have none. So, and if you do something, they have no problem going back to your to the Board of Nursing to report you.
Yeah, and that needs to change.
It does. It absolutely needs to change.
Once we're assaulted in any way to where we're feared, and I guess that can be so judgmental on your fear, because people will take that to an extreme. But I think there needs to be an instance to where there is, a black and white.
Right.
There's that line, and once that line is established and crossed, we have the right to protect ourselves, not go after the patient to hurt them, but
Right.
to protect ourselves.
Hold them somehow, do whatever you have to do. The thing that I need to make sure that I do my little disclaimer on this show is that we do not condone any kind of violence towards patients. We are not therapists. We are not here to promote any kind of injury on a patient, indirectly or directly. We love our patients. We are only doing this kind of Zoom call because of the fact of lack of security. Patients, how violent they are towards our nursing staff, doesn't matter if they're nurses or if they're support staff or if they're respiratory therapists or, whichever category, as long as they're helping out with our job in healthcare. And again, I really appreciate you coming on. So what's happening now? You were able, so when you went to go file the charges, the hospital wasn't very happy with it, but you were able to keep your job?
Yeah, I didn't have one talk from anybody like immediately. Well, let's backtrack, I guess, a few months before that would lead to the charge nurses that day. A few months before that, before I had the current training. Now, I worked at this hospital, left, and went to one downtown by Forest Park, and then I came back to this hospital because I really love the hospitals. I feel like home. And we had the STAR training before. You can take them to the ground. So a few months before this incident, we had a guy that was a little intoxicated. He punched security in the jaw, pushed two nurses so hard they fell to the ground, and the sitter like up against the wall and started charging out. So I'm walking after him, and there's like a younger girl with an obvious ankle injury coming down, being groomed by another tech. So I just kind of grabbed him by the back of his jacket and kind of put him up against the wall while he's trying to headbutt me from behind. So I just kind of took him to the ground and held him. Didn't put my weight on him or anything. Some guys came, took him. Like 45 minutes later, they're like, hey, can you go help that guy go to the restroom? He didn't even remember me. I mean, he did not have any recollection of me at all because he was that intoxicated.
Right.
He shook my hand and introduced himself. Well, of course, I got called into the office. I got sent home with pay during the investigation, but this was a Friday. So now I'm wondering all weekend what's going to happen. But then it's like, well, you have not properly trained me up to your new standards. I did what I was taught to do from the previous employment here. So I don't feel I did anything wrong. And then eventually they agreed, but I was pulled off of patient care for a week and a half until the next class came to what we're currently using. Had to do ridiculous administration work, which if you're used to working at an extremely busy ER, now all of a sudden you're like thumbing through papers. It was pretty much miserable and punishment on its own.
Yeah.
So fast forward because of that instance to where I was going to pull off patient care for like a week and a half. So that day, like as soon as everybody started coming down, like the house super and, the charges were both, we had two charges because it was kind of like right in between shift change and everything. And both of the charges were like, he's not getting in trouble for this. Nothing happened. He did nothing wrong. He protected himself. So they definitely had my back and stood up for me, which was wonderful to hear. And I really never heard much from administration at all. I think they probably knew that the fact that the officer was there, that charges were going to be filed. There was no way of avoiding it because he witnessed firsthand.
Right.
They kind of reiterated, you do want to press charges. I said, absolutely, I do. I said, enough's enough. They called in crime scene detectives, took me into a private room, took pictures of all my injuries, kind of went over a full detailed report with everybody. I checked in, got seen by one of the nurse practitioners, monitored for about an hour for a possible concussion. Like I said, I had some bruises, had some knots on my head, swollen hand, nothing major. Didn't have any, cuts besides what was on my ankle. I don't even know how that happened. Um, it could have been a lot worse. If it would have been just that nurse in there by herself, she would have been transferred upstairs to the ICU probably. So I'm thankful that he hit me instead of her. I really am. So after that, didn't really hear a whole bunch. Months went by. I don't know, it was maybe August. I get a letter saying that the court dates finally come up. The whole time he's been in custody. I think the officer, when I finally saw one of them, said when they got into the jail, he got pepper sprayed again because, he just, I guess, wasn't getting it.
Right.
So I went to the first court hearing, which I had to use my time, my money to drive down there to use parking, sit in the courtroom for 2 hours for the assistant prosecutor come up and say there's going to be a continuance. Big shocker. So that's fine. I said from here on out, if you need anything from me, come to me. You'll come with a reporter. I know you guys have the capability of doing this and come and get my testimony. My time is very limited with 5 kids. I'm not going to sit in a courtroom and waste my day. The days off are very few and far. So, I continue getting letters to the point to where my boss is kind of like, I feel like your personal mail person, almost once a week I'm getting some from the prosecutor's office, which looks real good coming to work, by the way. So finally, this letter is dated November 22nd. So it was right at the end of November, maybe the first few days of December. She calls me and says, hey, I got a letter in the office from me from the prosecutor. I'm like, here we go again, just another continuance, another, what's going on? Because probably about 2 months prior to this, month and a half, maybe, the assistant prosecutor called, says, hey, the defense attorney wants to know if you'll agree to a plea bargain. I said, probably not, but what is it? Now, in Missouri, as of January 1st, I want to say 2018, assault on emergency responders, ER, EMS, is considered very similar to assault on a police officer. Looking at this paper now and the charges, they say it's the same, but it's not. So he asked me if I'd do a plea deal. So what do they want? They want 5 years probation and drug counseling. I said, absolutely not. I said, if you are telling me that these charges and assault on me as an ER worker is the same as assault on a police officer, and he would have blindsided and sucker punched a cop on the street, that you'd be calling that officer and asking him this question. You 100% would not be doing that. So I will not agree to that. If he gets it, that's on you guys. But it won't be because I said yes. As far as I'm concerned, he needs to go bye-bye. He needs a little rehab. I probably won't help with his drug issues because they can probably get it easier in jail. But I won't agree to probation and counseling to where he gets slapped on the wrist and told not to do it again like he's in, second grade.
Right.
So he said, okay, I'll pass it on to the defense. So at this point, I'm not feeling real confident. I'm kind of angry, It's kind of pissing me off at this point because you're telling me this is the same assault on a police officer. Why are we even having this discussion? So then that day, I opened right at the end of November or whatever, I opened up the letter. It says, I started looking off camera because I'm looking at it. Advised that the above case, he actually pled guilty. I guess once they said no, he's not going to agree to that. I guess the charges was much more. Like I said, I don't believe it's the same assault on a police officer because it was he pled guilty to assault 3rd degree special victim, which is a class D felony, and then attempted assault 3rd degree special victim class E felony. On each charges, he got 2 years in prison. Unfortunately, they run concurrent, so at the same time. Now, I don't know, since he had 6-7 months in, St. Louis County, if that counts towards Missouri Department of Corrections or not, if he's going to get any credit towards, time served. In all reality, he could be out by summertime if he does with parole and good behavior. Who knows? But, he didn't just go home the next day on bail. He didn't,
right.
Get out 30 days later. Kind of setting an example, hopefully, that enough's enough.
Well, see, and this is a lot of nurses and nursing staff. It's like almost like you're teaching them it's okay to continue the same path of what they're doing. If you don't report it, and I know a lot of nurses feel like if they get reported, they get retaliated against. But when it comes to mass numbers, like if everybody was reporting the same, like the issues that were happening and they were continuing, administration is not going to fire everybody. They're not going to have you under the microscope. They're going to try to work with you, because if it's in numbers, people are going to start to listen. So, and this is where nurses are not connecting the dots. If you continuously report and they're not going to get rid of everybody. Right. There's no way they can handle it. They already need nurses.
You know what? As far as I'm concerned, if they start firing people, you draw attention, call the media, call the news, do a story. It will stop very quick. The other day, well, not the other day, it's probably about 2 weeks ago, we had what we call, when security needed, Code Strong 5th floor.
What is
it?
And
I'm right there. A Code Strong. It's our little coding for, there's been violence. We need security.
Code Strong?
Yeah, like strong. So come to find out, there was a patient. He was the patient in one room, got up, and he was also a little, meth patient history and everything of, meth use and little psych issues, but he was actually in for, sickness related, I think pneumonia or something. Got up, went out of his room, went into another patient's room, punched a family member in the jaw, and then just walked right back into his room. Unfortunately, that patient's family member did not want to press charges. It's like, you can't really say, no, you need to, and try to persuade them to do something more, you can offer to them. But enough. It's got to that extreme to where, patient on family, other patient's family member assault is going on, and it's absolutely unacceptable. It's if administration doesn't like it, administration needs to step up and do something about it.
Right.
If I would have lost my job over doing this, then I would have filed the biggest lawsuit known against our hospital, because I have every right, when I'm in fear of my life, to protect myself. And that day, that day I became in fear because I didn't know what was about to happen, because there's no reason in my mind, from the history of my life with everything that I've been through, that this guy should still be standing. So what am I going to do? Because there's not anything I'm going to be able to do to hurt this guy to get him off. So at what point is that next punch going to be the one that blacks me out, or I'm just out cold,
Right.
And the level of protection we have is, in some hospitals, extremely good. In some, no.
What do you?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, now the hospital I worked at when I left this one originally and went to another hospital before I came back, you would think would be so much more worse. But just because of the presence of the security officers, no, not once out of a year and a half of being there or so was I ever once worried. Not once did any patient ever touch me.
Right.
So we got to, from an administration standpoint, we don't just fill the spot, make sure somebody's qualified.
Right.
Don't just put somebody in there and give them a uniform and think that they're going to be able to protect us, because it's not the case.
So when you said that you were in nursing school, I've noticed from the nursing school, there's not a lot of education, as far as, there's maybe a class that they offer in the ER, but really that's not real world. That's literally not what's happening out there. People will just pop off at any moment, and they'll be smiling at you, and then all of a sudden they'll punch you right in the face.
Yeah.
And the nursing school is so stuck in the 1950s, the curriculum, that it doesn't even talk about any societal trends that are what's happening right now with the opioid epidemic and the addictions of different things that people are mixing meth, cocaine, and fentanyl together in an injection. Come on, it's getting so ridiculous out there that these guys, and then crocodile, I don't know if you're familiar with crocodile. It's from Russia, and I'm sure somebody might. It's KROCKADIL. It's mixed with gasoline and all kinds of toxins, where when they inject it, basically the skin and everything starts snapping off. It's almost something right out of the CDC, the Night of the Living Dead, mixed with all these other drugs. It's really, really bad. And this stuff's coming into our ERs. Like I'm in Florida, this is in California, and I think also in New York. So it's spreading. And it's because of the fact that they can't get the pills anymore. So, this
Whatever
addiction.
you have to do to get the high.
And here's the other thing too. The people that are shooting up and they're addicted to substances, more times than not, they're having incredible pain somewhere. Yeah. Not necessarily physical pain. They're having pain up here. So they are suffering. These people don't have no right to punch anybody though. Right. So that's a totally different kind of scenario. Obviously that needs to be addressed. But when you get to the root of the problem, it's, I've researched all these different areas, but we need to stop looking also at everybody that's addicted that comes in as being an addict, and that's all that they're there for is more drugs. And
touching on that, Sandy, like going back to my history, when I was 32 years old, I had a cervical fusion at C5, C6, very young to have arthritis in the spine at that area and to have that kind of a surgery. Mm-hmm. At that time, it was not an opiate epidemic. I was in pain. They cut the front of my throat open, moved my vocal box to the side. I was out for 3 months of work. And I mean, it was pretty miserable. And I still, to this day, deal with the pains because now, like, the fusion didn't take. C4, my transverse process, the bone is somehow growing. So they want to drill that out, which I'm not really too thrilled about, and I'm trying not to. But going back to when that happened in 2010, you go to the doctor and we'll just give you more. Oh, we'll just give you more. Yeah. Doctors need to take some accountability for what's going on because, I mean, at one point, I was getting 90 Percocet a month, 90 Vicodin a month, and 30, Darvocet. That was every month. Take these, and then take the Darvocet after 6 p.m. because it won't keep you awake. Just 2 years ago is when finally I said enough's enough. I was taking 5 10 milligram Percocets a day plus 100 microfentanyl patch. It was barely touching my pain. So I told my doctor, we have to figure something out. Yeah. If I ever get hurt, I will never be intubated. I will never be able to, you guys won't be able to give me enough medication to get me comfortable. And I've went through a more all natural approach with medications that work 100 times more. And now they're trying to ban this. And that's with Kratom. It's an over-the-counter. I'm not sure if you've heard about it. A lot of counties and states are banning it from it, but I've done 100 times better off of that going to a smoke shop and buying it than I ever did off of any of the pain meds they give me. But people also need to realize, at no point was I ever wanting to punch somebody because I didn't have my medication or because I ran out. And, I've been through that stage of the withdrawals, and it is miserable and it's very sickening. But that's not an excuse.
No, it's not.
It's really not. No. And you don't have to be in at one point, Missouri changed its laws. If your MME is over a count of 50, which is not much, you can't go to your primary for medications anymore. You have to go to a pain specialist. They can't, your primary can't prescribe more than 90 pills a month. So, 3 a day or whatever it may be. And at one point, a few years back when this happened, I feel horrible because I felt like I'm always getting judged and this and that. And I had a doctor one time, you're not a junkie. You're not a seeker. Are you pawning stuff to get your medication from somebody else off the street? Your body has an addiction because we have continually given you this over the last dozen years. That doesn't make you a bad person. Right. And people also need to realize that just because somebody is taking something, they don't classify with that heroin junkie buying the $10 or whatever it is on the street corner. There's people that actually needs it. Mm-hmm. And there's people that, yes. And I've been there too. You hurt. So instead of taking 3 today, you take 4 and you'll come back tomorrow. But you know what? Tomorrow you hurt just as bad. So with 4 days left in your scripts, you do run out and stuff. But it's not because you're searching for a high, because there's just legit people out there that hurt. Right. Because of MS or surgeries or whatever it may be. And they just legit need the medication. But again, I think, the doctors need to have some control and responsibility. So now we had all these years of just, we'll give you more. Okay, now the law's changed and bam, you're cut off or this and that. That's not right either. No, don't say you have to go to a pain management specialist. The bottom line, you give me a urine sample, you come in every month, we'll give you a script, You give me a urine sample, they can judge if you're taking it 4 times a day like you're supposed to, if it's in your system, the consistencies of the level. If you're not, one and done, that's it. There
Yep.
needs to be some leeway for the people that are actually doing what they're supposed to do.
Right. And then there's the you got malingerers, right? You got the malingerers that are always in there, but then you have the people that, like, if they got sick from the, like, they're trying to withdraw from like fentanyl, which is very violent, they come in and we send them to the ER, and because they're literally dehydrated. Because
what are they going to do? Give them some blood pressure medication, some clonidine, and a banana bag.
Yep. They give them Vistaril, and so it gets violent to the point that we have to send them to the ER. Well, where is it okay that an ER nurse or somebody can sit there? And when this guy came back to me, I just, I treat everybody the same. I don't try to get into anybody's conversations. I don't add, I'm friendly to everybody. I treat everybody the same. The guy just sat there and he looked at me. I was like, "How you feeling?" And he looked at me and he started crying. He's like, "They were judging me. They made me feel like I was a junkie." And that, I was just like, how could anybody make them feel like this? He's like, "I'm here on my own trying to get clean. I want to be clean." He's like, "I can't help it if I'm like this." And we don't know the circumstance.
You don't know the story. And I tell so many of our psych patients when I work in the ER, don't cry. You've made that first step by coming in.
Right.
You don't realize how much of us workers, doctors included, we're not too far off from being where you're at.
Well, and
we're not that any better.
Yeah, the things that we suffer can make somebody turn.
Yeah.
Right.
Even with my primary, I mean, he's made a lot of money off of me. I have autoimmune issues. I have to do IgG infusions every week. And then I have really bad asthma. I do one shot. And those 2 medicines alone are $75,000 a month that insurance charges. I do all self-administration. My doctor gets a little over 18 grand a month just for writing out the paperwork. So he's made some good money off of me. So I would go in, and he's one of these doctors. He has a bazillion patients and everybody wants to see him, not a nurse practitioner. His nurse practitioners would make me feel like the biggest junkie, drug seeker, and everything. And finally I told him, I will not see anybody besides you. Yeah. You have been with me from day one. You get it. And I told him what they were saying to me and how they made me feel. And I'm like, I won't come in and feel, when you're my doctor office, and you know my history, and feel on the defense. Like I have to watch what I say because I might not get my monthly medication, or have them tell me, "No, we can't do that," when you texted me earlier that day and said, "Come down." I mean, people just immediately, if you get this or that, they judge you, and I've never once, like with any patient, you're having withdrawals, regardless of what it is. Yes, it's horrible. I've been there, and it's like, it's a painful, miserable feeling in your stomach that just hurts. But don't be violent to me. I'll help you out whatever way I can.
Right.
Don't be violent. If you're sick, we'll figure it out. That's why we're in this business, is to help patients.
Right.
Not to be an MMA fighter, not to act like it's a bar fight. I mean, it's to help you out. And I can relate with you, therefore I can help you even better in my eyes. And I've told patients, I've been there, I was on the medication, and it's, you slowly start working it off, whether it's a prescription aspect or if it's from the streets and you're shooting up. In my eyes, don't go get on Subox or whatever it is, because it's just another addiction that's going to cause for you. Start weaning yourself off. Start finding
methadone, all of that.
Yeah, just start finding that medication that's going to get you down, or just slowly. If you want to wane down, if you're on pain pills and you want to wane down, you're not going to be off of them in 3 months.
Right.
You might not only be able to drop your quantity from 4 to 3 and then 3 to 2. It might take 6 months just to drop by 1 pill per day. But you know what? In 5 years, you'll be off.
Right.
And, try to educate as much as we can. And that's the whole point.
But that's the problem. There's not enough education in nursing school. So therefore everybody is judgy. And it's like, okay, well, whatever the doctor says, I still feel like you're an addict. And I've seen the behavior. It's just disgusting. Like, it's because of a lack of knowledge. Oh, I don't work in mental health, so therefore I don't care about what happens. I'm only on med surg. I'm like, What?
Well,
How do you
the thing
not
that,
take care of like
yeah,
100% of the patient?
it doesn't matter. And one thing that bothered me is I went to a hospital one time for asthma related issues. Um, I, my asthma is very bad. I was down to 22% lung function on my PFTs at one point. I had an experimental surgery through Washington University, bronchial thermoplasty. Not sure how much you know about that, but they literally burn the inside of your lungs that have the areas of exasperation. And it's increased me up into where I'm in the 60 percentile, which is light, day and night for me.
Yeah,
I went to a hospital legit for nothing but asthma related. They named out my medications I'm on, never said nothing else about anything, pain pills included. Well, later on, years later, I worked for an affiliate of this hospital and pulled myself up, which I know is not right, and I probably could have got fired for that. But they had in there from that day that I was possible drug seeking. All I mentioned was I took that medication. Never once said, "Can I have a refill? Can I have one while I'm here?" Or anything. What can I do at that point? Because I can't go to anybody and say I pulled my file up and me pulling myself up. I don't recommend. You will lose your job. I get that. It's going to flag you, and I don't know how it did me. It's not right, and I did wrong with that. But for them to put that in just because I went over my medication list, that how do we win that battle when our own coworkers are judging us at that point? Very disappointing.
yeah.
So now that's in my file for all of Epic throughout all hospitals now. Anytime if they would go back far enough to see, and that's just something it's not helping the situation with any of it.
No, it's not. And
we need to get it known we need to educate, and every incident of violence needs to be reported.
Absolutely.
And like you said, administration might fire one, might fire two. Hopefully it follows with a lawsuit from that person. And then you have to provide a safe, violent-free work environment for us. You have to give us training that allows us to protect ourselves.
But in Florida, I'm sorry, but in Florida, like it has to be an EEOC claim in order for you to be able to file anything. There's nothing against retaliation. That's what 1309 is going to be about. And if you go to OSHA, good luck trying to get any help with that, because you know how many people are going to the whistleblower hotline? Unless you're a famous person or somebody, they want to, that's in the limelight, then they'll go after you. That's my observation. That's what I see, because I've had lots of nurses come to me and say that they have actually called the whistleblower hotline and nothing has ever happened.
Yeah.
Well, so that's unfortunate.
I guess I'm thankful Missouri. Maybe they're going to be setting examples. Maybe other states will see. I don't know. I really wish that my incident was on the news, was more public, and I mean, maybe we can still make that happen somehow.
Yeah. Yep.
Because
I have some connections that I could give you their information, and you can reach out and let them know that I sent you, because they're up there with you,
Okay.
So I don't know where you'll get with that, but at least there'll be something. Yeah, Missouri is really on the cutting edge of everything. So I really love going to school up there, and I just love what they're doing. So well,
whatever I have to do from a spokesperson, to help get it out there, any interviews, whatever, talk to whoever. Like I said, I'm thankful that it happened to me, because I'm somewhat able to protect myself. The next person might not be able to, the next one might be an 8-month pregnant, 150-pound girl. I mean, we don't know. And we got to stop it before that happens. And even after my incident with me says, with us changing them before security comes in, this needs to change. That was an eye opener that day, that the process needs to change.
Right.
Somebody's going to get hurt before it probably does. But
a lot of people have been hurt. A lot of people.
Yeah, well, seriously hurt, should I say. If he would have had something in there like to stab me with, or we just got to get things changed. That's all there is to it. We'd be able to protect us better. My number one thing was, up here we have quick trip gas stations. There's substations for, St. Louis County Police. Get rid of our security. Make our hospital a substation.
Oh, yeah.
They're there all the time anyways.
Yeah.
Because there's been so many times walking through our ER lane and security's there, and the people are still acting crazy. But then the St. Louis City or St. Louis County cop would walk by and they straighten up real quick.
Yeah, they don't want to
Because there's a difference.
Yeah, because they want to be able to be in the comfort instead of being in jail. They know and people seem to think, oh, well, they're not competent. Well, no, if you have somebody that's dementia and you have somebody that has like Alzheimer's, they're not going to be competent. More times than not, they will be competent. They're just trying to get by on the law and trying to make sure that if they're homeless, they have a place to stay. And rightly so. It's cold up there. I understand.
Yeah.
You know,
it's freezing cold. I mean, we would have our regulars, you know, at my other hospital, we'd have our regulars that came in all the time because they wanted to get warm, wanted to get their turkey sandwich.
They know. So I really want, and your story is going to affect a lot of people in different ways. I have a lot of nurses that have been addicted to opioids as well, that are alcoholics that have reached out to me. So, I mean, your story is going to,
I have no problem talking about that either, you know, because I went through a very tough time and I felt horrible because of my surgery. That the doctor the one time at the pain center said, you're not an addict, you're dependent. Don't think of yourself as an addicted drug seeker. You're dependent on this medication. And that did lighten the load on me a lot. You know, it made me realize that, you know, I'm not selling everything I can find. I'm not robbing houses. Yeah, if I don't take my medication, I'm going to get sick just like the junkie on the street. But there was a difference between our routes of getting things, of doing things. There's still, even at that stage, it's right and wrong on how you handle things.
Yep, it is. And listen, I really appreciate you taking this time out. I know we were kind of juggling between last week and this week.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you taking time with your family upstairs and, you know, and being able to share the story with me. So I will also connect with you and give you that information. And if you can let me know that training program, just so I know, be current on every place. So, and thank you very much. And let's keep in contact.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you. Have a great
evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.